Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards, and in today's video we're going to be focusing on finishing drills from different angles. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be focusing on a finishing drill which is focused more on individual, okay, and then we're going to move into a team-based drill and then a small-sided game to finish. But before we get into it, let's have a look at how many players we're working with this week and the equipment that we'll be using. So in terms of players, we're going to have, in terms of outfield players, we're going to have 12 outfield players plus 2 goalkeepers. Now, if you don't have goalkeepers, we can speak about how you can adapt that, okay? For the session, you might not have too big of goals to work with. You can use smaller goals, put them together. You might not have goals in general. Use poles or cones to create a goal, okay? So in terms of equipment, we're going to be using balls, bibs, cones, and then if you have them, poles or mannequins are great to use as well. In terms of the setup for this part of the session, okay, so from the goal line, okay, to where we're going here, we're going around about 20 yards, okay, so just outside the box, so we're in that final third. In terms of the width of this in here is just going to be 10 yards maximum, okay, and then the players either side of this, we want them to be about 10 yards away from there, and these players are just going to be either side of the goal, okay, between 5 and 10 yards away, so they can just be just inside these 2 players in there. So these 4 players are going to need the ball. So the players are going to work in pairs, okay? So they will it'll go round twice basically. So once one player's had 4 finishes, the other player will have 4 finishes, and then they'll swap over with someone else. So you're going to look to set this up in 2 scenarios, okay? Or you can just have opposite players waiting there, and then players can just swap over, a little bit more waiting time, okay? But if you can set it up with 2 areas, brilliant. So after each finish, okay, the player who's finishing has to move around one of the poles to then receive the ball. So before they receive this finish here, they're going to move up, okay, and around to receive this ball. Now, they can either take it on their own or combine, okay? So as they receive this ball here, this player can maybe move out into here to play a 1-2 with them, okay, and then finish. But this second player, we want them to focus on going in for the rebound. So as this ball gets hit, okay, can they look to just step in a little bit, so in case the keeper saves it or it hits the post, it can come out and it can be finished. But we're looking for this player to obviously score. After he's scored there, okay, this player is going to move themselves back in. They then look to move around one of the poles again, okay, or it can just be a cone to receive off the opposite player. So then we're going to move around into space again, okay, receive that ball. They might then set it inside, okay, or take it on their own again. So then receive on the outside to move in, and then finish, okay, with this player then moving in again. Next, they'll receive it from the outside. So you can do either side, okay. We're going to go with this player just because once we've finished here, we can get a bit more movement to receive off this side. So then, after the player's finished, they can move around either pole, okay, so they can just move around this one, okay. They could receive it in space here, okay, set it in if they wanted to, play out, or they can take a touch straight through the middle of the pitch, which then encourages this player to spin off, okay, so they've got to react to each other, okay, and look to finish. This player gets themselves in, and then the last finish, the player will then move to receive it from this player here. Again, they can look to combine, get themselves in behind, and then finish. As soon as the 4th finish is done, these 2 players just swap over, okay, and then this player will start with the ball again, and this player receives it. So we're getting 2 finishes where the ball's coming back to them, and then 2 finishes where the ball's coming on the side. Again, the player can take it on their own, okay, but we want things to be done quickly, or they can combine and finish. So it's being creative and improvising in that final third to create shooting opportunities, and then again, that second player making sure that they're reacting to it, okay, to try and get themselves in for a potential rebound. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Now moving into part 2 of this week's session, we're now focused on more a team-based drill, okay, which is going to be focusing on receiving from a wide area to then finish. So how we're going to split our group off, okay, you're going to have your wide players here, okay, so 2 players each side, and then where we have the cones here, 2 players on each one and 2 players resting, okay. Goalkeepers can alternate, so if you do only have one goalkeeper, that's fine for this part of the session. Now, we're focusing on moving the ball quickly through here, first time passes. So our receiving skills, okay. So the coach is going to play into this player, okay, can alternate each time. They're going to set it across for this player then to play up, okay. This player will then set it across for this player to play up, so we're playing through. This player will then set it across, okay, for then this player to play wide. So after this player sets it across, we're focusing on their movement. This player gets themselves ready, gets played out wide to them to meet, and then we're focusing on our movement here. So this player can drive into the front post. This player can sprint off. So a touch and cross or first time cross into the area for the players to get themselves in there and then finish. Okay, as soon as they've finished, obviously this player gets themselves back into there. These players will have been moving up whilst that's happening. Okay, so as soon as they've passed the balls, okay, move themselves up, move themselves up, move themselves up. So these players got time to get themselves back. Coach gets the ball, plays into the opposite side now, okay? Gets played in, gets played across, gets played in, gets played forward and across, gets played in, okay? Bang, can we set it in front? So if it's going even in front of the player by a long way, that's when we want to try and get that first time pass going in. So we're focusing on our movement to spin off. Then again, it could be, okay, we're in there a little bit too early, or our movement's been a bit too straight, the ball hasn't come in. Can we look to spin off again to receive that ball and then finish? So the players each time, okay, in their pairs, just move up one set of the cones, okay, and the players who finished will then go to look. So swap over. You can swap the players out wide if you wanted to as well. If you had more players, you can add more crosses in. You can even add in defenders as well into these areas to obviously put some pressure on the attackers going in there. So focusing on our movements, okay, so sharpness to turn, okay, the ability to not be in there too early, so timing of the runs, ability to play first time as well, and that clinicalness, okay, in the final third when that ball comes in from wide areas. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to the final part of this week's session. Okay, now moving into the final part of this week's session, we're now focusing on a small-sided game which is encouraging movement, okay, with the players, okay, and then the ability to finish from different angles and in different areas of the pitch. So, in terms of the setup for this part of the session, we're going to have 35 yards of total depth, okay, you can increase that, decrease that, depending on how many players that you got, and 30 yards of total width, 2 keepers, so obviously if you have one keeper, can you get another coach or a volunteer to go in goal for one side? Or if you can't get that, maybe one team has small-sided goals. Once they score on the small-sided goals, they can go score in the goal. So it's 6v6. Now, each team is going to have 3 bibs given to them. So where you've got the Reds versus the Blues, just give them 3 more bibs, basically, if you've got them. Can be any colour. Now, only the person in possession of a bib can score. So what we're trying to focus on is, let's say this player, and this player's got a ball, okay? When the ball gets played into this player, okay, these 2 players are thinking, okay, how can I support them? How can I create space for this player? So if this player makes a run in there, this player makes a run in here, okay? Can they look to take this player out, okay, for them to finish? Now, Blues are going to shoot this way, and Red's going to shoot that way. If they score, they retain possession, okay? So what we're focusing on is that movement. So these 2 players have got a bib. Can we focus on, okay, can we make a run up the pitch, okay? And then as we're making that run up the pitch, okay, toss the bib to one of our teammates. Can we pass it along as we make a run inside? So then this player might follow them. They give the bib away, okay? This player then receives the ball and can finish, okay? So it's about encouraging movement, okay, and making sure players are aware of, okay, this player's got a bib. We're trying to score here. So we can keep in possession, okay, and swapping the bibs as well. Okay, so it's making sure they're aware of obviously what's on the ball, but also the surroundings as well. So making sure they're scanning all the time, making sure that players are moving, and also encouraging that movement, not just to receive the ball, but to create space for other players as well. So players can swap the bibs at any time. This player might get the ball here, okay, and the only two players further ahead of them might not have a bib. Okay, so then can we see this player make a run in, okay, with a bib to then go in and finish, okay? They can swap the bibs over at any given time, okay? Doesn't matter if they're attacking or they're defending, okay? Very rare that they're going to swap it when they're defending because obviously they're trying to focus on winning the ball back, okay? But as soon as they won the ball back, especially on transition, can we get players in an area to go and score? We don't want to be getting up the pitch and having to wait for players, okay, to make their way up with the bib, okay? So this is where we're trying to encourage and improve that communication between each other, okay? That awareness, okay, of the space, what people can go and attack in, awareness of, okay, there's a player with a bib, there's a player where it isn't a bib, so then we're focusing on our movements as well. Now we can support our teammates. So we're making it quite tight to encourage that movement as well. If you do have more players, you can increase it. But again, the focus is again on players with the bibs having to score, okay, and making sure that the players who haven't got the bibs, okay, not standing still, can they look to get themselves in a position to maybe get the bib, okay, to help support the player on the ball as well, making sure that, okay, them three players have got the bibs, just let them go and attack. Okay, that's not how we want it to work. Support runs, so then when this player's got the ball, let's say they're crowded out, they've got a player to pass into who can deliver and then score. So our support runs for our players, support runs to attack as well. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. Don't forget to head over to our website where you can sign up to view all of our exclusive content. And we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.